I've had a lot on my mind lately because the end of the year, school year, is a big time for people. And first, there was the commencement speech that I gave at NYU Stern's graduation, which was really exciting and very gratifying. But recently, I then went on to the Today Show. I hope you caught me. It was on a recent Friday. And I talked about my graduation speech, my commencement speech, but I also spoke about entering the job market, which is on the mind very much of recent graduates and their parents. I mean, so you're leaving school and you're going into a job. And this, there's some things that new graduates need to know, but there's things that all of us need to know about entering the job market. So I thought I'd just spend a few minutes at the beginning kind of talking about the big lies that you're taught in school about work and how you have to undo some of these big lies that have been in your head. The number one thing that you have to learn is that school is far less ambiguous than the real world. Like in school, you've got a class, you know what the class is about because there's a syllabus. You've got a teacher. The teacher tells you what will get you an A. I mean, I stand up at the beginning of my classes and I say, if you do these things, you'll get an A. And if you don't do these things, you'll get, a B or you'll get a C or whatever. A teacher has to be very clear with you. You know what the assignments are. You know what the readings are. You know when the tests are coming. And you know what the curve is. And you know what grades you can get on it if you get a certain number of points. And the semesters are a certain amount of time long. And school teaches you this. There's a kind of structure and clarity and predictability to what energy that you put in and what you get out. And except in some very specific sort of banking programs and consulting programs where they have this down to a science, work is actually not like that. Work is very gray and messy, and very often people don't tell you what gets an A or what success looks like or what achievement would look like. If you hit this mark, you'll get this result. And even sometimes when they do tell you that, it doesn't happen. And so you go from a world of structure and predictability and clarity. And I know you all who are recent graduates, have all your complaints about school and all the problems with school and by the time you graduate, especially from college, it's gotten so monotonous. You could just jump out a window. It's like, oh my God, if I have to sign up and if I have to register one more time, I'll just barf. But you'll miss it when you get to the working world and you've got a boss who's a little bit crazy pants, or there are meetings that get scheduled and then get unscheduled. And then you realize kind of a few weeks in that all the real work is not happening at those meetings that you're in, but there's meetings after the meetings that you're not invited to. And suddenly there's sort of announcements and you're like, wait, I was in a meeting where we were discussing this. How did this happen? And they're like, oh, well, there's Sally met with Tom and they sort of decided, now eventually your memory of school will fade away and that will be the real world to you. But that's the first thing that's probably shocking to people. And hey, if there happen to be any parents out there listening to this and you're talking to your kid about going into the real world, the first thing you've got to say to them is all that stuff that was felt hard and really could be sort of summarized as clarity, predictability, lack of ambiguity, that's all going away. And that's the new regime, and you kind of got to get used to it. And there are corporate programs where it's really lockstep and they have it all lined out. And it almost kind of emulates school for a while. There's sort of programs. But if you're going into a startup, if you're going to be in a kind of entrepreneurial venture or you're going to any kind of new company or a company that's run by an owner, you can kiss that stuff goodbye. I want to say one other thing about what you don't realize about the working world. And actually, this is true also if you've just joined a new company. If you're leaving one company and you're going to a new one, or you're just going to the working world. Companies are like families. They have history. And you come in and you're the new person and there are skeletons in closets. There are relationships. There are previous hurts. I mean, I have to say, this is kind of a dreadful thing. After I got to be very experienced at work over many, many years, when I would start working in a new place, I would think to myself, eventually I'll find out who in this organization slept with each other. Okay. I mean, isn't that terrible? But it happens. Okay. Companies have human beings in them and human beings do human things. And you'll be sort of in a meeting and you'll notice two people are really unfriendly to each other and you'll think, why? Their work is so aligned. And later somebody will say, well, she used to be married, to his sister or his brother or whatever it is. And it's a mess. Okay. There's all sorts of history. And people have hurt each other's feelings. They've they've blocked projects people want, or they've had personal relationships that come into the mix. And when you first arrive at a new company, for a little while, keep your mouth shut and your eyes wide open and learn the history. And you may not like the history, but like your family and like you, organizations have history. And that doesn't happen at school. Every semester is new. You go in, and the class starts afresh. And I mean, I do this myself as a professor. Everything's brand new. The slate is wiped clean at the beginning of every semester. But that's not how it is at companies. There's old wounds, old relationships, old agendas, and your job is to be like an anthropologist when you get to a company, whether you're starting the first day as a newbie out of college or whether you're starting a few years along in your career. You got to be an anthropologist when you enter a company and find out where all the bones are buried and who buried them.